Okay, we're live. So it's episode 84 of Office Hours. I have to be on peak performance today because I've got Alex with me, who's our CEO, of course, and was the previous Office Hours host. So GM, everyone, put your GMs in the chat and I'll have a look at that. Alex will have a look as well. So before we start, if you're new to Office Hours, each Wednesday we do Nansen and Chill, show new features, answer questions, hopefully provide some alpha, and yes, any other interesting stuff as well. So make sure that you subscribe, turn notifications on. I've got a Nansen unsupervised episode this Friday with Justin's son, so don't miss that. So you want to subscribe. And yeah, if you want to try Nansen, we have two links, one below for Nansen Lite for free, and then one as a trial link for $9, which is a bargain. Okay, so what we're going to do today is a bit of like how we both, and probably more interesting how Alex uses it than me, but how we both use Nansen on like a daily basis. And yeah, there's some of the stuff that we'll look at. And then also we'll try and cover some of the kind of big topics of the week. So I want to see like if you could set smart alerts to like prevent these kind of not prevent them from happening, but prevent you from losing as much money or any money from these kind of bridge exploits. So yeah, if we start off with how you use Nansen, Alex. Do you want to do an intro as well? How have you been?
All
Let's
right.
do that.
Yeah, no, I've been good. It's been nice to see you take over Office Hours from one Alex to another.
Yes.
And also going from intern to senior intern has been good as well.
Yes.
Because that is your new title, right? Senior intern.
To some people, maybe. It's not actually senior intern.
Yeah.
I'll
it's very funny
though.
though.
I'm
like
happy with that.
When I meet people, actually just earlier today I had coffee with someone, and it's becoming more and more common that people tell me, oh yeah, I love Nansen, and I love the Nansen Intern account on Twitter. More and more people are telling you that, and I of course get very sad because they don't mention my personal Twitter account. They typically mention yours before mine, so it's nice to see a bit of decentralization happening in the Nansen ecosystem.
Yeah, I'm sure that mine will get uncool eventually as well. It's because I'm early on.
Wait, did you just say mine was uncool?
No, yours is not uncool. Don't fire me for that. But mine is cooler because it's new.
Strike two there, Nansen Intern.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Should we dive into this stuff? By the way, did you lose any money on that Solana thing, or are your funds intact? No.
I use a hard wallet for everything.
Oh, really?
Unless it's like some embarrassing NFTs or something. So yeah, I didn't lose anything. Did you? I saw that you moved some Solana.
I did move some funds. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really know what was going on, and I guess it wouldn't have been the end of the world if I'd lost those funds, but I figured there's pretty high ROI potentially on just moving them to a bit like a hard wallet, basically a ledger. I still don't quite understand what happened. I haven't been reading that much about what happened on Twitter, but I saw Anatoly mention something about an iOS issue, because there were some wallets that I think received funds, but they never actually did anything actively, which is very strange. Like, you should definitely not be able to lose your funds unless the private key is compromised. So I think we'll just have to see what happened.
I don't think anyone's answered like what's happened yet. I think they're still figuring it out. I saw someone like making a document of like all the wallet addresses that have had the issue, but yeah, it seems very weird to me.
Yep. Also, I was trying to look into it a bit using Apeboard and also Nansen to look at some of those hacker addresses, but then the basically some of the RPC endpoints, like the Solana nodes, went down. So that means the explorers and Nansen and Apeboard and all these different tools that rely on those nodes to show what's happening also kind of went dark for a bit. I'm not sure they're up again, but yeah, so it's kind of a mess right now. Anyway, maybe we can go back to what you were saying, like how do we use Nansen? That's what we're gonna spend, I guess, most of this session on. And I think there are a few different things. So first of all, I don't think there's any one way to use Nansen, across different people, right? You and I probably use Nansen in different ways, and that's actually part of the magic of Nansen, because that means you and I won't necessarily always buy the same NFT collections or the same tokens or ape into the same DeFi protocols, etc. There's actually billions of different paths you could go down just from the homepage. Like if you keep going, multiple levels down. So if I click through on, I don't know, Dr. G or Venus or Bored Ape Yacht Club, that might take me in a totally different direction, right? So that's maybe the first thing to say. And also, I think there's also a kind of temporal variety within your own use of Nansen. So, depending on what the market looks like, or depending on what your current interests are, you will use Nansen in a different way. So the way I use it today will be different from the way I used it 1 year ago. And so I think, those two dimensions are kind of worth keeping in mind, that different people use it in a different way. And also you will likely evolve and change the way you use it over time. So it is a very flexible tool, but nonetheless, I think there are some kind of basic principles that might be helpful. So on the homepage, which by the way, I feel very strongly that we should be able to personalize and customize this more. Now everyone sees the same widgets. It would be nice if you could just, I don't care so much about this widget. I want to remove that. I want to put in some of these other widgets instead. So hopefully we'll be able to ship that in the not too distant future. I kind of like to look at this one these days, the ETH Exchange Flow. I think this is kind of an interesting macro indicator. And we recently added this blue line, which I think makes it a bit easier to read. And it shows how much Ether is sitting on exchanges, both centralized and also decentralized exchange pools. And the reason this is interesting is because it says something about the supply-demand situation of Ether. The kind of rationale being, if there's a lot of Ether on exchanges, that means it's kind of easy to come by, and maybe that's bearish for the price. And conversely, if there's a lot of Ether going out of exchanges, that's interesting, because you might enter a situation where there's not enough Ether to come by, to go out and buy it. And then the price, ultimately might go up if people want to buy it. So it gives an idea of like the supply side on exchanges. And if you look at, say, late February, it peaked and it's been dropping quite dramatically since then. And so one thing I pointed out not that long ago in another like Twitter Spaces I did with Avant-Garde Phi was that this roughly matches the inflow into the ETH2 ecosystem. So the stakers, right? If you just kind of look at that February point, which is here, there's actually more ETH going into the ETH2 staking universe, or staking contract, let's say. And so that's kind of interesting from like a macro perspective, that there's all this ETH that's flowing out of exchanges, and it's not necessarily the same ETH going from exchanges into ETH2, but in net terms, there's like ETH being taken out of circulation and being locked up in the ETH2 world. And so that's like one thing I've been kind of monitoring a bit lately. And when I log into Nansen, I always kind of just check like where are we at on that blue line? Like, is it going up or down? But of course, it takes a while before that trend changes a lot. So that's one thing I'm monitoring these days. Another thing that I kind of consistently use is smart alerts, because smart alerts is a nice way to make sure that you're not constantly sitting in front of your screen, but you get notifications delivered to your Telegram, Discord, or Slack in a way that is a bit more actionable. And so I can maybe talk a bit about some of the smart alerts I have and some that I've used. And you can see some of them are grayed out. That means I've just deactivated them, because I might want to keep the smart alert, but I don't want to keep getting the notifications. So I've just kind of deactivated it, which you can do when you click in on it. So here's one, like the Ukraine donations. There's a Ukraine wallet, which I was kind of curious on in the beginning, who was sending funds to it and how much. And no, actually, sorry, I was curious where the funds went. So I set up a smart alert to get notified when they move the funds from the wallet, like where are these funds actually going, right? So that's one thing I did, but I deactivated because I don't really monitor it that much anymore, and I don't know, you know, what happened to those funds.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you remember that India COVID wallet that like Vitalik donated loads of money from like SHIB dumping? If you ever look at that wallet, it's just pretty much inactive. It's got like $120 million in that India like relief wallet, just untouched. It's kind of interesting. Like all that donations went there, it didn't move.
Do you know which assets they have? Like, can we find that wallet somehow, or
yeah,
we could also go on EtherScan.
I think search, I found it because it was Tether. I think it was USDT was like the main one. Okay. We have it labeled, so but I can't remember how I found it. It should be one of the largest balances.
Yeah, so let's take a little detour there. So we can go and look at token distribution for Tether, and then I make heavy use of filtering. So was it COVID something?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's see. Oh, it might actually be loading. Oh, interesting that it loads after that. Let's see. I don't know if that's a bug.
If it's not USDT, it might be USDC.
No results found. Okay, so I guess maybe it's not that. Why did it take so long though? That's kind of curious. Let me try again. Yeah, it's not that one. We can try maybe USDC instead. So changing to USD here. See if
they gave a load of money back
COVID stuff. Oh, they gave it back to people donating?
Vitalik. Yeah, they gave Vitalik back like 50 million. I don't know why.
I don't think it needs that.
Exactly. I don't really get that. Yeah, you can definitely find it on Nansen, and it's interesting, because they haven't really used it. I'm sure it was USDC. The way maybe I found it was SHIB, but I don't think he sent directly SHIB. If he did, it seems surprising. But Journey sent the address.
I guess another way we could do it is to kind of look up token movements as well. But yeah, I mean, also you could just kind of go on EtherScan probably and say like COVID relief fund or something. Or
someone makes an interesting point. Apparently, in the chat, they couldn't liquidate it to fiat. I don't know why, but yeah. So what does that make the wallet though? Is that just like a useless wallet? I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
I don't know. This feels like something the product team should know about. It takes ages to load this top balances. When I try to run that filter, I'm gonna refresh the whole thing. Not a great user experience. This is by the way, I don't know if you guys do that. I don't think you do that so much anymore. And maybe you feel like you can't dunk on the product on office hours, but that's actually I think one of the main use cases for office hours that you can sort of say, hey, this is actually not a great user experience. We should improve this. If I try this again, okay, no results found. Okay, so we didn't even find it, but it looks like it has 268 mil. So it's a bit weird that we're not able to find it.
Is it because of the hyphen? Is it because of the hyphen? So it should be COVID. You'd think it should come up there. I don't know.
Maybe.
We've gone completely. I've taken it completely off the rails here. Sorry about this.
You could also just plug in that address there, I guess, and then you would see it, right? So there we go. There it is. Not sure why it doesn't come up there, but okay, fair enough. Yeah, we kind of went off track a little bit there, but you could look at the $269 million and in that wallet. And I'm curious, if they've actually done anything about it. Looks like the latest transaction was February, so that's a long time ago. And that was incoming. And you're right, they sent like 50 mil back to Vitalik. That's hilarious. And then Wintermute, I think, was tasked with. I think Wintermute was tasked with liquidating the SHIB, right? If I recall correctly.
Oh, okay.
But let's go back to smart alerts maybe. So yeah, Ukraine, you could have monitored that COVID donation wallet as well. I have a Pengu volume above 50 Ether. That's kind of a fun one because when Pudgy Penguins gets a lot of trading volume, I get a notification. So it's like, hey, something's happening with Pudgy Penguins. You could do that for other NFT collections as well. The way it's configured is this alert type set to advanced, and then it says NFT collection trading, not minting. And I plugged in this one, and I think maybe this is wrapped penguins. So I kind of look at both of them, although there's not much wrapped penguin action going on right now. And then it's 50 ETH in 1 hour, which doesn't happen very much, but occasionally you see that. So that's a fun one that triggers.
That's ambitious.
Sometimes.
Yeah, triggers sometimes.
Yeah, very rarely, but it does occasionally trigger. It did trigger a while back when I think right before the soulbound tokens, I think it triggered.
Oh yeah.
And then there's an Alameda PTP farmer on Avalanche, which I still have active, but I don't think it's very active anymore. And then I actually have smart alerts on my own wallets, which I think is a nice way to use smart alerts because it gives you a bit of comfort that if it's compromised, or even if you get incoming, you can configure it different ways. If you get incoming funds or NFTs or tokens, whatever, you can get a notification for that, right? So that's just kind of a convenience thing more than it is alpha. But it is quite nice to have that set up. I also have a smart alert on this like massive ETH ICO participant because I found them a while back and they put a lot of money into the ETH ICO, and I think some of the funds were just not moving, and so I set up a trigger on it, and it did actually trigger. Maybe we can grab the address up here and look at it in Wallet Profiler and see. There's been one transaction here, the 18th of June. On this one, it has like $100,000 worth of OMG, which has probably got airdropped back in the day. And it's been conveniently labeled whale. And you see it got its ETH from the burn address, which is not very common. That means that they got their ETH in the Genesis distribution, and they've sent out 213,000 ETH. And where did it go? It went to these other wallets here. Yeah, so it's kind of a fun one that I set up alerts for, and when it triggered, it was like, wow, that's cool. And I tweeted about it, and then it got a lot of engagement because people are often curious to see what happens with these whale addresses. So yeah, smart
we
alerts,
do have
generally. Yeah, go ahead.
We have an ICO label, I think. So not on that one, but I've seen it before, like ETH ICO participant label.
Yeah, we do.
So yeah, maybe
here.
that's one to add. Or is it there?
This one here.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, they're like rare to find.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea actually. So we could create a new one and say, if you want, this one, ETH. That's a good idea actually. So now for anyone who's been an ETH ICO participant, and maybe you want to cut it off and say like, at least $1 million or something like that. By the way, why don't we have comma separation on these numbers? That's kind of annoying, do you think? Like, it's hard to read. Is this 1 million? Is it 10,000? And yeah, so you could call this like ETH ICO participants, and maybe you want to only look at their transactions and token transfers. Yeah, and then you can set that up as you please. So I'm not going to set it up now because then I have to input the Telegram ID and all that stuff. There's also some unlocks, which is a common use case for smart alerts. So you set up some vesting unlocks for tokens that you care about. The typical way to set that up would be that you look at which address is actually distributing the tokens, and then you simply set an alert to say whenever you have outgoing transactions from that address, you want a notification. So for AXS, I think it just says here is the distribution, and here's the token. Whenever you see a transaction related to that, you get a notification on AXS. How do you use smart alerts?
I of like recent times much more into NFTs. Obviously we're like in a bit of a slow period, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but like my smart alerts are NFT based, to be honest. Like I look at the kind of profit leaderboard and then I go through the people that are actually of interest to me, because a lot of the people on the profit leaderboard are actually just people who bought. So I did that tweet about the how like 3 of them are the same person or whatever, because they all buy or bought punks and art block stuff. So you have to kind of go through and find someone who's actually active as well. A lot of them probably made a load of money and then retired, so they don't really do anything anymore. So I have smart alerts set on that list. I think probably someone. No, maybe on page 2, but I have lists for like people who mint art blocks, because I thought that was an interesting one. And like recently, art blocks have been doing pretty well, obviously, apart from the last 2 weeks. And then also, yeah.
Just to shoot one thing in there, do you make use of these guys, like these filtering ones here, because you can see who's most profitable within recent time periods, which you couldn't do before, right?
I'll give you one thing though about that, which is some feedback. I've been using them because it's a new feature. If you have a look there though, the problem is there's these like 2 free collections nowadays, like over the last 2 weeks, that are just wash trading. So the people that have made the most profit are just wash traders, like the ones that have like one collection bought. So you don't get much signal from like the top few. Yeah, so you have to go and kind of go down a bit, but then at that point they're not making that much profit. So if there was a way to filter out wash traders from that list, that would be ideal. Because I think because of the volume that we've got at the moment, people are doing it a lot to get to the top of the list, you know, on Twitter and on Nansen, I guess. So yeah, you don't get that much from that. But yeah, my smart alerts are mainly NFT based. Once crypto kind of recovers, I'll probably use it more for crypto things. But yeah. I wanted to say, actually, let me mention. So for smart alerts, it's quite a good example to talk about. So for that Nomad hack, if you have a bridge, and like obviously we now all know that bridges seem to be very susceptible to exploits, you can set smart alerts on these bridges, and obviously they do large transactions anyway. So you kind of need to set quite a large boundary, I guess. But then once you start seeing like unusual transactions, then you might feel like, okay, I need to do something here. Because I saw on Twitter yesterday, people writing these threads about, they were like watching the bridge and they were like, okay, these transactions, they look unusual. And then they start pulling the money or whatever. So it gives you a way to kind of easily see early on what's happening. And the best example was obviously on Anchor UST, like the people, there was a guy, right, who used Nansen, saved a load of money by doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything that's a bit risky is really helpful.
Yeah, he didn't do exactly that, but he did something very similar, which was he had smart alerts on the curve pools, but it's conceptually the same thing, right? So if you do that for a bridge, or if you do it for a pool that you have funds in, it's probably a good idea to, like, when you deposit funds into a pool or a bridge, you should go on Nansen and set up a smart alert right away, so that you get notification. Because you imagine if you could like, when you put money into a bank account, you can get a smart alert if there's a run on the bank, right? Like it's sort of the equivalent thing. And that seems like what you should do, to the point where if you start doing that, I think it's very hard to stop doing that. You'll feel almost unsafe if you, and that's probably a healthy instinct, right? You need to have some form of monitoring and alerting set up. So that's a good tip.
I think that's a general point actually with Nansen. Like for me as well, I used to just buy loads of like trashy NFTs, and I didn't really care about whatever the data. And now I work in Nansen. You can actually see. So I was talking to someone the other day, if you want to buy these NFTs that like recently, you're just kind of trying to make money from them. If you use Nansen, it's so helpful. Like, I can't even explain, because you can see elements like is smart money buying, and also what is really important for these low like tier NFTs is the distribution of like holders. So I always feel like if there's like 40% or less compared like holders compared to supply, then I just don't touch it anymore, because you just get the floor just gets flooded by whales basically. And before I wouldn't look at this data, and then I would buy these things, and obviously you get ruined. So yeah, once you start using Nansen, I guess, for like, and that's the theme of this episode is supposed to be, for investing, it becomes like very hard to like actually invest without it, which I guess is why our product is so good, because you can see all of these things.
Yeah, and it's something that another user told me as well a while back, which is that once you start doing a bit of due diligence using, say, token god mode or NFT god mode, it's also really hard to buy a token without checking that first, right? Because it feels like you're just buying something blindly. And I mean, maybe we can show an example of that, right? You see here on the first page, we haven't looked at any of these really, but I don't know, Angle, right? You might want to, you're looking at Angle, and so you plug that into token god mode, and then you go and you kind of, okay, well, obviously price chart does not look great, but you can look at the token distribution. I think that's often quite helpful to understand, like, where are these Angle tokens sitting? Oh, there's 1% held by Wintermute in a multi-sig, and then there's some more down here in a market maker by Wintermute. Okay, random French guy on OpenSea. I think it's a French team actually behind this project, which is funny. There's some there's stake DAO, so there's an SD Angle/Angle factory pool token. Okay, so you can kind of look at who's putting money into that by going to top depositors. Looks like quite like 32% of the tokens are sitting in the Angle Labs multisig, maybe a team wallet. There's a distributor here, which you can do the opposite. You can look at top recipients. So who did they send tokens to? There's a governor multisig, and then there's a V Angle token. So maybe that's something kind of like Curve or voted escrow setup, which you can also look at top depositors for. Anyway, so I think before I would go and like buy Angle mindlessly or blindly, I'd probably look at, what are people, what's happening with these tokens, right? The distribution, where the tokens are actually sitting. And then one thing that's new here, we moved the smart money tab into token god mode. And so you can get a sense of what are the smart money addresses doing with this token, like in aggregate, which is the balance up there. And then also certain specific addresses that are labeled smart money, right? So you can sort that by balances or by changes. In this case, looks like the Wintermute wallet received some, as well as like individual token transfers, withdrawal from Gate.io to Wintermute. So that probably means they're market making on Gate.io. Anyway, yeah, so like right away I get a much better, I don't know much about Angle, but like immediately I get an understanding of some of the on-chain activity that's going on. And again, if I would go out and say buy Angle tokens, I'd probably want to do those like 5 minutes at least looking through these basic stats and data that you have on chain.
Yeah, I think it's really important to kind of see, it's the same for NFTs, I guess. It's just like, where is the supply? So like for some tokens, like kind of that's a good example. A lot of the tokens are just in a multi-sig for the actual project anyway. And then also someone sent me the other day, which I thought was really interesting, about RSR. And it's the same for Matic at the moment, like the unlocks. So if you were like new to RSR or Matic, I guess you could look at the supply and see like where is it going. And initially, someone thought RSR was being bought up by people like Block Tower. I think you can have a look there. But actually, it was just unlocks. So it's important to kind of see the transactions. Yeah, there you go.
That's kind of it.
But also you can see what they're doing with it. So they're still holding it. They didn't dump it.
So,
Yeah.
right. So you can look at the wallet profile for token on it. And Struck Capital, yeah, you might want to drill down on that and understand what they're doing with it. And yeah, so yeah, there are 3 transactions here, all this very specific amount, which yeah, it's a good chance that's maybe some vesting going on. These ones seem like they've been received tokens from other wallets, though. It's 3 separate wallets, so I don't know if they. Yeah, that's curious. But you can keep going down, drilling down on those 2 if you wanted to figure out wallet profiler for token. Let's just do that real quick to see if we see something interesting. When I think Alberto had this like heuristic where if something is not labeled, then it's interesting because that means yeah, there might be some information there. So these ones, it appears that there's been minting going on. So that's typically a form of like distribution or vesting going into this wallet, and then it goes straight out to Block Tower afterwards. So I don't know if that's a way to. It looks like it happens in the same transaction. You know, if I look at it here, it's like it goes from this to that, and then it goes from that one to Block Tower.
Yeah.
Which is curious. I wonder if that's just a way to make it harder to trace, or if it has any real purpose to do that kind of one-hop distribution.
Somebody asks, why is the number of smart money addresses so low on Ape Coin? I think that's up to Ape Coin. I don't know.
Let's have a look.
I think, to be honest, though, I want to dunk on Ape Coin sometimes because I don't really get what it does. But I think people they move out of their wallets into like whatever staking and stuff, so it's a bit like misrepresentative of where it actually is. Yeah.
Well, let's look at MachiBigBrother here. What have they been doing? Let me close these other tabs just real quick because I think we got a sense of what was going on there. The Struck Capital one is probably the same too. What was the last thing they did? Okay.
Sell it.
Send funds to Binance. Well, I mean that is like literally one reason why you would see a drop, right? He used to have 2.1 mil Ape coins. Now it's down to 1.5, and it looks like these tokens went into Binance Deposit. That's kind of interesting wallet to look at as well, by the way. Not sure if they own that wallet, but it is a Binance account at least. So either they're sending it to some counterparty or they're sending it to their own Binance wallet. Okay, it looks like top depositors into this. How many depositing addresses for Ape token do you see in here? That's something I often do with these exchange wallets to get an understanding. Like if there's it's only one. So that's the only address sending Ape tokens into that Binance deposit wallet. Maybe another thing I would look at here is if you click this one, you can see the sort of general wallet profiler. And because we were looking at Ape specifically now, right? But if you go down to the Binance deposit wallet, you can look at broader than just the Ape token and to see which other tokens. So you see there's some cream here, which we can look into. But this Binance wallet has been active since 2020. So the late DeFi summer, that's a bit of history for that account. Let's see how much ETH has gone in and like which tokens have gone into this one. Could be an interesting. This you might want to put a smart alert on this one, right? If you own any of the same tokens. So looks like 26% of the ETH going into this account comes from MachiBigBrother, and a small part from FTX, which could simply mean that they're withdrawing from FTX directly to their Binance account. And then all of it goes into Binance. That's normal because it's a Binance deposit account or a user account where you send funds and it gets consolidated into a main wallet. $83 million worth of Tether, $22 million worth of USDC, and then 5.6 mil worth of Ape, 2.3 mil worth of Cream, one by one. Okay, these are, yeah, I think these are projects that are associated with this this account, let's say. Makes me wonder, you know, there's a chance that these other two HeavyDex trader accounts would belong to the same entity.
Yeah.
Because they're sending it. Could also be someone else sending to their Binance, like you don't really know, tokens in. And so, yeah, you see these two. I want to look at these two as well. Now we're kind of going down one of those rabbit holes, but it's kind of interesting to, because you know, how do we discover this, right? Let's pull ourselves out of the rabbit hole for a moment. Someone asked us about Ape Coin. Why so few smart money wallets? Well, we didn't really answer why. I guess there are many different ways to answer that, but you can see it has trended down. And the latest thing that we spot is that there's a big negative change on this wallet, which is a smart money wallet, and they've sent those funds into Binance. We don't know if they sold them on Binance, but if they were selling on Binance, they would have to send the funds to Binance. And now we kind of spotted this Binance account that they sent it to, which has some other activity all the way from addresses that go all the way back to October and November 2020, possibly related to that same entity. Who knows? Anyway, so you can go do the whole like investigation and kind of sleuthing around that, I suppose.
If you want to see as well, like if they've sold, often they like deposit stablecoins back into that wallet anyway, which then obviously confirms that they've sold. So for instance, I was watching Longling to see what they were doing, and they'd deposit a load of ETH into like Binance, and then like 10 minutes later they'd have the equivalent amount in stablecoins. So that's obvious, like a good way to tell. And I think Darren made a good point before, like if you're sending to a exchange, it's like a very high chance that you're probably selling, because there's not often that many reasons why else you would do it. If you're moving it, kind of seems like you probably just move it somewhere else. If you're trying to hide, I guess, your money and like trying to move it so people can't track it, I guess. But yeah, I feel like most of the time, if you're sending it to Binance or whatever, you're probably selling.
Yeah, I think, I guess we being on sort of the internet here talking about people and entities, we can't decisively claim that they're selling.
Yeah,
there is a chance that they're not, right? But I think intuitively there is a chance that they're selling, and so that's something that people have to make their own judgment on. But maybe what do you do from here? Like, what's the call to action? To me, there are a few things you can do here. We discovered this interesting Binance Deposit wallet. I think one thing I might do is add it to my watch list, right? So MachiBigBrother, something like that. Okay, cool. Now I get that star show up in dashboards, which is quite convenient sometimes. It sort of stamps out, oh, this is an address I care about. The other thing you can do is to create a smart alert. And so if I did that, like going back to what we talked about earlier, how to use Nansen, maybe Binance Deposit, you know, MachiBigBrother, and then I might, I don't know, set up maybe a threshold, so it defaults to 10,000. Maybe I just keep it at 10,000. I could limit that to specific tokens or whatever, but maybe I just want to keep it as is. You know, now I just have to go down and select my channel, and this I think we want to make a little bit easier for people. It's not too hard actually to find your Telegram ID. There are instructions here, and the same for the other channels. But if you just go here and save, then we went from like right-clicking, create smart alert, and it's pre-filled, and you just have to plug that in and save, and now you get alerts for that wallet. So I think when you come across interesting wallets, like adding them to your watch list and or creating smart alerts is a reasonable thing to do.
I wanted to ask you as well, because we've like done a lot of crypto stuff. Do you, because I'm interested, buy like a lot of NFTs, like low tier stuff, or are you buying because you want to hold most of the time, especially nowadays, like in the current market?
Yeah, for me, NFTs are typically like a one-way ticket. I buy them, and I never sell them. And so it's, I mean, I've definitely flipped NFTs, and of course I've detailed many times how I've flipped some NFTs I should not have flipped too early. But I think these days, if I buy NFTs, it's mostly for fun, because I like the project. Typically I don't have any intentions of flipping. Now I might flip, so I'm not going to say if you see me buying an NFT, I'll never sell it. But I think one of the things we talked about before hopping on was like, which NFT collections have you bought recently? And maybe one thing we can look at there. Actually, the most recent NFT I bought was on Solana.
Okay.
And I looked at the data for it right before hopping on here, and it doesn't look great. Sorry, let me just. Wow, I'd want to dig into these wallets afterwards, but okay, I'll close them for now.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have started them, but whatever. Okay, so the NFT collection I bought was Kikiverse, and this is not me shilling it, but the data looked pretty bad. Like I think I minted it a while back. It was like middle of the night on a weekend, and here it is, Kikiverse, and we can click through on it, and it looks like you got 4. I think I bought like 11 or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think I have them here. Oh, okay. I have to log into my Phantom wallet. Yeah, so this looks pretty brutal, right? I think we minted them, what was it, 0.4 ETH or 0.8? Like, I don't know. And now getting wrecked over here, right? 0.2. So I bought these because they were cute, and some of the people who are working on it, I think, have also been working with like Pudgy Penguins folks. So that's why I bought them. They also made a nice one which has a Pudgy Penguins like Viking helmet for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You've
got
a one
I mean, the metrics. I guess it's a 1-of-1. Yeah. But the metrics look pretty brutal, right? I mean, look at this. There's very little volume. The price is down. So who knows? I don't really know what the roadmap is or anything like that. But it was one that I bought recently, and I'm not sure you can see me here. I think I had like 11 or something like that. I do own alex.sol, but I don't think we have all those tags added yet. So it might not be so easy to see me here. Also have core. Oh, I think this is me. Let's see if we can see that here. Oh yeah, I also have some mix mob masks. Oh, okay, this needs to refresh. Yeah, I should label this. Maybe I'll star it for now. Alex. So
I think they just launched at like a really hard time. It's like they launched and then the NFT volume completely disappeared like the day after. So it was a really unfortunate time to mint.
That's true. Yeah, that's true as well. Here we go. It's loaded now. So you see me minting them for 0.5 Sol. Yeah. Anyway, I think it's just kind of fun to test out different blockchains and different marketplaces and new products. So I don't think I'll get very rich on Kikiverse necessarily. I mean, who knows? But it's kind of a fun project, and I might as well just mint a few and see what happens.
We have today. We're going to be announcing more marketplaces. I think it should be today for Avalanche and BNB. I think it's just Avalanche, maybe actually today. Yeah, so that should be very exciting for everyone. I want the JPEGs data because I want to buy one of those small Joes or whatever, but they're really expensive. I didn't realize how expensive they were. They're like 5,000 or something. Yeah, small Joe. Yeah.
So I think Avalanche is one of those blockchains that doesn't have like one clear leader on NFT marketplaces. It's kind of spread out across multiple ones. So that makes it a bit harder to get a full overview of what's happening in that ecosystem when it comes to NFTs. But yeah, so as we add more marketplaces, it might be more fun to monitor what's happening. But we do have some support currently as well. We have NF Trade, I think, is the one we support now, right? And so we have these other ones coming. And you said BNB Chain will have more marketplaces too, right?
I think so, but I don't think that's yet. Journey and Daniel shilling Nyan Heroes, which I don't know what they are. Maybe Solana or something like that. Trying to pump their bags.
Oh yeah, of course.
What is your take on like the NFT market as well at the moment? Because obviously the volume is terrible. Do you think we're just in a period or what?
So now we're going back to, I think, also how, like, what I'm looking at these days in Nansen. I do look at the NFT trends. I think these are really, really cool. Like, these are very good ways to keep on top of what's happening in the NFT market. And for a while, I was quite hopeful. I think at some point I tweeted, you know, we have several consecutive weeks of growth in both volume and number of users. This was kind of, I think, here, but since then it's gone the wrong way. And so for, I guess, 2 weeks in a row, we've had metrics going down on everything, like users, volume, transactions, and that's not good, right? You'd want to see these metrics go up, and you can see here buyers per day. So the pink one is first-time buyers, which is interestingly quite steady, but the returning buyers is interesting. That's been, for a while it was going up, but since mid-July it's kind of tanked, to be honest. It was sitting at almost 70,000 returning buyers per day, and it's fallen down to about 40 something thousand per day. And so so I mean, to be quite honest, I was hopeful a couple of weeks ago. It doesn't look great now, but I think there might be two things happening here at the same time. One thing is that there's generally like lower demand and interest in NFTs across the board. The other thing, which I think we also saw happening with DeFi after DeFi summer, is that as you get a lot of new projects and marketplaces and blockchains that support NFTs, you get a dilution of NFTs across all these marketplaces and blockchains, which means when you look at an individual chain, in this case we're looking at Ethereum, the metrics will look pretty horrific. But if you had aggregated everything together in one view, it might not look as bad, because there's a dilution effect going on across the marketplace and across the chains. I think the trend is still down, like if you made that overview, but it makes it look even worse because you are only looking at one specific chain or one specific marketplace, right? So I think it sort of amplifies that downwards trend. And so I think, you know, we have to see if interest picks up again, but we're maybe entering a period where, you know, people are expecting to see some sort of, you know, delivery on the roadmaps that some of these NFT collections had put out. Some NFT collections might literally run out of money over the next few months in terms of the treasury, and like those might just like die, and then you just have the NFT, and maybe that's fine. Or maybe if you had expectation that something beyond the NFT would ever happen, then you might get disappointed. And then there are of course all these gaming projects, and if we look, I'm not authorized, what the hell? That's hilarious. Okay. Seriously, I'm not authorized to access this page. Wow, what's going on here? Product team should take a look at this. That's hilarious. Even if let's try to refresh. That's so funny.
I've never seen that before.
Okay, now I can see it. Oh, that's a weird bug. Someone should note that down, please, in the team watching. What I wanted to show was the gaming sector, right? Because the other thing that is quite nice with these NFT indexes that we have is that you can get there's not one NFT market, right? Of course, a lot of things move in parallel and are highly correlated, but blue chips are, they're up on the year, which against ETH. I should emphasize this is against ETH when you look at the index points here. So it was at 1,000 points. That's kind of the starting point. And now it's at 1,093. So it's up 9.28% year to date against ETH. If you look at game 50, this was at 1,000, right? That's where it starts. Now it's at 291. So it's down 71% against ETH, which is itself down, right? So the gaming sector is getting wrecked. The art sector is actually up against Ether, right? So there are some interesting movements here, and I really like these NFT indexes. But what the point I was going to make is that I think there's even more expectations on the gaming NFTs because people are expecting games to come out, right? And these games might get delayed because, hey, it's not actually easy to make a game, right? Or they might ship and they suck, right? Which will happen in many, many cases, maybe the majority of cases, because again, it's not easy making games. And so I think at some point, I actually don't think that I'm not very optimistic about the gaming index. I just think that there will be a small set of games that will succeed and they'll do super well. But the majority of games, I think, will either not get delivered at all or they'll be terrible. But I am hopeful that there will be some really, really good projects. I just don't know which ones they are. So this, I've kind of said a few times, I think of this area like Web3 gaming as kind of hyper venture capital. It's maybe going to have even higher failure rates than traditional venture capital or even like crypto investing. But I do think that the ones that really crack the code here might do extremely well. So that's like one of the predictions I have. Of course, I don't know which games will take off, but I think some will. And then I think the general, 98% of projects will kind of trend towards zero probably.
I think the funding is like a big issue at the moment for NFTs. Like I imagine a lot of these collections, like even not even just gaming ones, probably had in their head like, okay, we make an average of like this much money from royalties each month, so we can probably do this. Let's say late 2022, and then the market gets ruined, the volume gets rugged. They're not making those royalties anymore. They then can't release the things that they plan to do, and then it becomes like a compounding issue because all the users are then like, okay, where's the stuff that you promised us? When in reality, they can't actually put it out either. And I think there's an issue, obviously, in terms of like last couple of weeks, ETH went on a run, and then you start looking at stuff, and like everyone's poor because we're in a recession. So everyone's like looking at stuff, and they're like, okay, now this is pretty expensive. So 0.3 ETH was suddenly $600 or whatever. So I think there's just this period now of like, ETH ripping, NFT collections not having much money, so they can't innovate. I think people are scared to launch at the moment. Like we just saw with Kikiverse, like you don't get a good reception. So people don't want to launch, you don't have innovation, the competition is low. It's all just a real like mixing pot of loads of things at the moment. I think we'll probably get some relief in my view, just because ETH is like heading back down a bit. But it's not an ideal time. I think it's a really difficult time just because there's no new entrants that are like any good. Like I did a tweet the other day saying NFTs above 10 ETH. There's only like 5 now, which is crazy. You think how many NFTs came out last year, and there's only 5 now remaining.
Seriously?
Above,
there's only 5 that are kind of the floor is above 10. Is that what you meant?
Like if you can, Doodles was 10.2 yesterday. Some reason Cyberkongs didn't show up, but someone made a good point about that. But if you think in terms of like PFPs, I mean, there's like punks, apes, mutant apes, nouns, if you class that.
I found a bunch here. I mean, maybe so. I just took the floor ETH on NFT Paradise. Although you
but
might
these are
want to
not.
filter some of this out. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean by like PFPs. There's going to be like art projects and stuff
Okay.
above 10. So like cliff
Right,
friends or whatever.
like Dino
But like
Pals or
PFP projects, above 10.
Bill Murray 1000. What the hell? Okay.
Don't know
But
what
even
that
here,
is.
like even before
Yeah.
you filter, there's only, let's see, 1 to 26, and there's what is it, like 1 to, it's like 20, 21, 22 collections here, and you should probably filter some of these out, right? To your point.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's quite interesting. What I was gonna say, first of all, I when you talked about the funds and projects launching and raising funds, I think I should plug this research piece that was written by our eminent research analyst, Louisa, where she goes into the last 6 months, or rather the first half of 2022, from January to end of June. There was almost 1 million Ether, or close to $3 billion worth of Ether raised through NFT sales. And so she goes into kind of where the funds went, and you can read this. This is on our website. Just go to nansen.ai and look at research, and you will find it there. NFT sales. Where did the ETH go? So there's a lot of stuff you can dig into here, and there's some cool like breakdowns on how much the different NFT collections charged in minting fees and distributions around that, and of course where the funds went. So a lot of them went into kind of separate NFT wallets, and some of them, like a large chunk, went into kind of unknown addresses that we would have to dig deeper to label, and then very little went directly into centralized exchanges or into dexes to be dumped and so on. We highlight some of the unknown or non-entity wallets here, and which collections sent to them. I saw VFriends went into a lot of these. Maybe we should just ask them, like, hey, what are these transactions? Like, where did you send the funds? So I wanted to just plug that, and we're on time, but I wanted to also make the follow up on your point on kind of digging through the different NFT collections, right? Because it is a really interesting time. A year ago, it was always just a race of getting into the collection that was minting right now. So it was kind of a game of just being first into any mint and then flipping them, and you would have almost like a guaranteed profit, right? Now you can say, okay, if you believe all NFTs are going to zero, fair enough. You should probably not do anything with NFTs. If you think that NFTs have some promise and that some of this will recover, it's a very interesting time now to dig into all these NFT collections and look at some of the kind of fundamentals and on-chain data. What are the collections that have, say, smart money long-term holders that don't have a history of like dumping these NFTs, right? What are some NFTs that have treasuries, right? That you can do some sleuthing to try to find out, to see what their runway is, right? If an NFT collection has a treasury where they're going to run out of money in a month, maybe not a great idea to buy those NFTs. But if you see, this collection has a treasury that will last them for like many years, that might be a lot better. So it's an interesting time now for those of us who believe that NFTs are going to make it as a category, and maybe scoop some NFTs or look into some of these. So I tend to think of the discovery, due diligence, and defense. You can think of that in kind of different macro environments. When you have a clear bull market, discovery is very important because you discover new collections that are minting and you ape into them. On the flip side, when you're in a bear market, you maybe focus more on defense, and you want to make sure you don't get dumped on. So you have smart alerts, you might have some vesting unlocks and things like that you're monitoring. And then due diligence is always useful, but I think it's useful in a bull market, in a bear market, and also kind of a crab market. So now I think is the time to do more of that due diligence and try to sift through some of the collections and try to figure out maybe there are some of these that you want to make a bet on. But of course, you should know that, you know, there's no guarantee here of making money. This is always true with crypto. But yeah, so it's an interesting time to actually spend some time for those like enthusiasts out there to dig through all the data right now.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point, and some reason I hadn't thought about doing it. Like, you should look at the treasury wallets for these collections, which is a bit horrible for them, but I'm probably going to do that now. So apologies
Oh man,
to all of these
no,
collections.
100%.
But it's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, yeah, we're on time. Maybe let's save for next time, like how you might do that, and
yeah,
people can of
I'm
course
going to
try
research.
to use some for it.
Yeah, I'm going to research how you do that, and I'll probably put some tweets out. I really, really like that idea. But yeah, somehow we're at 1 hour, which is crazy. I feel like we could have done a lot more, but we're going to have to end. So yes, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Alex, for joining, which is quite crazy. Darren says OpenSea royalties recipient label. That's what you need to look for if you're looking for that. Treasuries. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'll have a look for that in a bit. Make sure you subscribe. Turn notifications on. If you've looked at this and you want to sign up to Nansen Light link, Nansen trial link, both in the description. You can choose between those two. And yeah, thank you so much for joining, and hopefully see you on Friday or not next week. Okay. Bye-bye.